Hello everyone, my name is Orla. Welcome back to my channel. And in this channel I read short stories for children and adults who are interested. In this video I'll be reading another story from Girls Who Slay Monsters, written by Ellen Ryan, illustrated by Shona Shirley MacDonald. So get cozy, cuddle down, and we will begin. This story is called Clidna. She's the chief wave of Ireland, and it goes between the Isle of Man and then Cork in Ireland. And this is Clidna, the wave goddess. Right. Clidna was the restless, fair-haired daughter of Irish and Manx sea god Manannán. She spent her childhood exploring every hidden corner of her outworld home, the underwater land of promise. Hidden inside a deep sea canyon off the Isle of Man, it was an underwater kingdom surrounded by a reef of sponges and rare black coral. Clidna's closest companion was the sea itself. She followed its current everywhere, through caves, along the rocky seabed, and deep into vast kelp forests. Together, Clidna and the sea examined fleshy coral reefs of dead man's fingers, played with velvet crabs, and even discovered sunken treasure. But there was one part of the ocean that Clidna never found time to explore: the surface. The goddess spent her days in dull meetings with sea witches, mermaids, and all kinds of creatures, discussing their problems and making decisions. It was too serious for the playful goddess, and she felt trapped. "I can't live without adventure," Clidna decided one day. "For once my royal duties can wait. I'm going up to the surface to see what's out there." When the goddess reached the top, it was exactly as she hoped. The waves were choppy with excitement, greeting her in loud crashes. Together, the goddess and the ocean watched a fiery sunset, seabirds swoop, and ships' sails over the inky horizon. It seemed so magical. But while she was distracted, a slimy fishing line hit the back of her head, and its hook catching her hair. Panicked, Clidna tried desperately to pull away, but with every moment the line became more tangled. She twisted around to see who was trying to trap her. There, rocking in the waves, was a tiny boat, its shadowy owner rowing towards her. Clidna was about to scream out for Manannán when her attacker's face was lit up by the moonlight. He was young and handsome, with copper hair and warm hazel eyes. As he gazed at Clidna, her body wrapped in seaweed, he was as mesmerised by her as she was by him. He gently untangled Clidna from his line and lifted her into his little boat. "What are you?" the goddess asked. "Are you a mortal?" "Well, of course," he said, laughing. "My name is Kevin, and I rode all the way here in search of a better catch." Clidna thought he was very brave. Having lived all her life in cold water, she never felt as warm as when he looked at her now. Was this what it felt like to fall in love? Kievan assumed Clidna had fallen overboard from a passing ship and offered to take her home on his boat. She wished she could tell him the truth and take him to the land of promise instead, but she knew he would never survive underwater. She decided her duties could wait a day or two and agreed to go with him. Her father might be angry with her for running away, but it would be worth the trouble for this adventure. Kievan took Clidna to the coastal village of Glandore in Ireland's County Cork. Here on the shore, everything was so new and interesting. The smell of damp earth after rain filled her with wonder. The sight of aging, grey-clothed mortals was so exotic. In Kievan's hut, she felt the heat of a fire in the grate. And when the goddess met his family and took part in their daily lives, her days flew by in a whirlwind of eating, fire-roasted fish, dancing jigs, and riding horses. Without realising, Clidna had been away from home for a year. Time flies. When Kievan asked for her hand in marriage, it was yet another exciting experience she didn't want to miss, so she said yes. But as the months wore on and the wedding date loomed, something didn't feel quite right for Clidna. At first, the feeling was like a sand pebble in her shoe, small but distracting. Soon, the feeling grew and grew until it became a beach rock sitting heavy in her stomach. Finally, she understood what was wrong. I miss Father. I miss the sea witches, the mermaid, and I miss the waves. So one night, the goddess crept down to the harbour and stole a boat rowing hard out to sea. She wasn't a strong rower, but trusted the current to guide her home, as it always had on their adventures together. But as a harsh wind started to blow and heavy rain fell, she found herself lost in the middle of the ocean. Clidna cried out over the crashing waves, calling for her father. No one answered. There was only one thing left to do. The goddess jumped out of the boat and plunged head first into the cold current. But to her horror, she quickly discovered she could no longer breathe underwater. The salt of the sea stung her eyes and burned her throat. Gasping and confused, Clidna pulled herself back into the boat and felt more trapped than ever before. She realised Glandore was the only home she had now, so with no other choice, she rowed back to her little hut. Over the following weeks, not knowing what else to do, the goddess cleaned, cooked, and planned the wedding. But every night she slipped away to the harbour, gazing out to the sea and wishing for the land of promise. On the night before her wedding, Clidna returned to the shore one last time, crying out to the emptiness, "Take me back, my darling waves, and I will never leave you again." Her voice carried over the ocean, giving way to empty silence. But just as she turned to make her way back to the hut, a sad melody echoed faintly across the water. From far off the distance, she recognized her father's lonely song. The sea was guiding her home. Clidna threw herself into the water, swimming as hard as she could, and the current swelled up to meet her. As they embraced, she felt her body float away, and she poured like pure energy into the water, magically becoming one with the wave. It was the most free she'd ever felt. The goddess swirled under the ocean, onto the ground, into the atmosphere, and filled every crevice of the earth. Then she surged back onto the water's surface as a wave. Whoosh. Droplets of her body danced in the air. Fish leaped up from the sea to greet her. Birds dove down from the sky to kiss her. And soon she was home, where her father rejoiced to have his daughter once again. No longer a young girl limited to one place or body, but part of the very sea itself. From then on, she was known as Clidna's Wave, one of the chief waves of Ireland. No new king could be crowned in Ireland without first standing upon the Lia Fall, which is the Stone of Destiny, on Ireland's royal hill of Tara, and waiting to hear Clidna's wave crash against Ireland's cliffsides to sound her approval. And she had great adventures, crossing paths with many gods and heroes, and going wherever she wanted, whenever she wanted. But Clidna never forgot Kieran. Whenever he or his family sailed on the sea, she protected them from harm and pushed fish-ups into their nets. To this day, Kieran's blood flows in many Cork families, and some say the magical Clidna's wave still protects his descendants. The end. Another great story from Girls Who Slay Monsters. Until the next one, bye bye.